And we are live now. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our Sunday program. We're going to go ahead and give folks a couple of minutes to join and then get the program started. It's great to see so many people who join these programs on time. It really it warms my heart. One positive of the pandemic is that we're learning how to be more punctual as a community, which is excellent. Great to see everybody joining. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and just give a couple of minutes for everyone to get a chance to log in and then get the program started for you all. Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Rania Al-Gindi. I am CAIR-Florida's Programs and Outreach Director. So thank you all on Zoom and on Facebook Live for joining us tonight. This is part of our online series, online programming series, CAIR Connections, to connect everyone with CAIR-Florida and to keep being able to provide our services. So we have two CAIR-Florida connections. One is Wednesdays at noon. That's our social lunch hour. So take a break, grab some lunch, and join us for guest speakers such as Dalia Mugahed, Sheikh Abdel Nasser Jenga, and many others. And then we have our Sunday programming series, CAIR Connections on Sundays. And those are more interactive workshops and sessions like this one. And so I'm very excited today to be able to bring our team of expert attorneys, well, experts to my heart, definitely, to share with you some legal, insights for a legal clinic. Before I hand it over to our moderator, Mr. Ahmed Khan, who is our Southwest Florida Engagement Coordinator, I want to just welcome you guys, encourage you to please join us every Wednesday at noon and every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern. The links to join are always the same. So if you have that link, you can go ahead and save it for each day and join us each week, inshallah. So also a quick plug, we at CAIR-Florida provide all of our programs and services free of charge. And so if you like what you're seeing and you want to help us continue to be able to do this work, then go ahead and donate and support us, especially as Ramadan is approaching. And we'll add all of the information for our programs and donating options in the chat box. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our Southwest Florida Engagement Coordinator, Mr. Ahmed Khan. We're really grateful to have him on the team, and he's going to be moderating your panel today. So Ahmed, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Rania. I appreciate the welcome. Again, to all of those people joining us on Zoom and on Facebook Live, welcome. We hope that today's program is of use to you. And basically what we're going to talk about today is the effect of COVID-19 on both employment. In this case today, it's going to be on unemployment mostly, and how to get benefits, as well as how COVID is affecting immigration. And it's a very complicated subject. We're not here to go into the minutiae of it, but hopefully we'll give you enough information that you can then write back to us, contact us for more specifics. That's what CAIR-Florida is here to do. Basically, what I want to do right now is just introduce the speakers, our presenters today. They are all attorneys here in Florida. The first person you're going to hear speaking is our attorney, Omar Saleh. He is a attorney from our South Florida office. He's going to basically give you a primer on what in Florida we call the re-employment system and the pitfalls that we're facing today. After his presentation, we're going to go to Norma Henning, who is a very experienced immigration attorney. She's based out of our Tampa office. And then finally, we'll go to Bob Sichta, who's also a very accomplished immigration attorney, and he's also based out of our Tampa office. And basically how we're going to do this is, before we even start, actually, I would like to say that we've put up a poll on our on this Zoom. If you're interacting, if you can answer those questions, it will do a lot for us to proceed with this webinar, because we'll be able to tailor some of our answers and get a real idea from our audience what their most pressing concerns are and where they are, and that will help us. So if you can go ahead and fill out that poll, everyone, that would be absolutely fantastic for us. And then what we'll try to do is we're going to start with the employment rights portion of the program. We'll talk about certain things like the Florida Reemployment Assistance Program, how to contact the program, in different aspects of that, and again, what the pitfalls are. Then we're going to be heading over to the immigration side of it, and we're going to be talking about there's basically the status of people who have entered the country with visas, change of rules regarding COVID-19, obviously, and then we're also going to be talking about the post-COVID-19 world, how that's going to look, because a lot of who we represent have current cases in front of the immigration court. And we all know with social distancing and the closing of institutions that these things are going to be affected, if not delayed, if not who knows what else. And Bob is going to get into a lot of that. So before we actually continue, there is something I have to say, because I'm also an attorney and we need to give out some information to you. Basically is the information in this webinar is intended to convey general information only and not to provide legal advice or opinions. This information should not be construed as and should not be relied upon for legal advice in any particular circumstance or fact situation. An attorney should be contacted for advice on specific legal issues, and nothing on this webinar is intended to create an attorney-client relationship. I'm sorry, I had to get that out, but again, we have to be professionals as well, and we need our disclaimers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think the audience might be able to empathize with me, what it's like working with a team of attorneys day in and day out, but it's been a blessing. I have your poll results here ready, so let me know if you'd like me to go over them before Omar gets started.
Yes, can you, for a couple of different ones, for at least for Omar's, we'd like to know from what region of Florida you're joining from, and if you have personally faced any employment or immigration issue or problems due to COVID-19.
Yeah, I can. So I can go.
Zoom, obviously.
Yeah. So I have the results are in. The poll has now closed. So I'll let you know for the folks who are on the Zoom call. For the folks who are on Facebook Live, we definitely encourage you to leave comments and interact as well. So the first question was, did you join this webinar to learn about employment, unemployment rights, or immigration rights? And so over about 55% of our audience actually joined to learn about both issue areas, a little bit higher with immigration rights than employment or unemployment rights. The second question was, have you personally faced any employment or immigration issues or problems due to COVID-19? And 32% have, and 68% have not, but are looking to just receive some more information that's relevant to them. What region? So let's see here. We've got a lot of others, so that's interesting to see where folks are joining from. But aside from that, we have Orlando taking the top spot, followed by Tampa and South Florida, and then North Florida closing it out. And finally, what is your current immigration status? So the majority of folks on the call are lawful permanent residents or green card holders. And then the next two highest categories are other lawful status or no status, followed by tourist and visitor status. So I hope that helps our panelists to know who their audience is. And with that, let's jump in.
Okay, right now, then I would like to introduce Omar Saleh, who is going to give us some very good information on Florida's re-employment system. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for the disclaimer too. I think we've reached the maximum limit of attorneys in a webinar. Alhamdulillah, we don't need any more. It's really a pleasure being on here with my colleagues, Norma, Bob, and Ahmed. Alhamdulillah. You know, the pleasure and honor is even more amplified in times like this when we're in isolation. We're still there for as many community members as possible. So to be among you guys is absolutely, like I said, it's a pleasure and honor, even though I'm not here with you. Tonight's webinar is mostly focused on immigration. If you think about it, maybe it's because I'm hungry that I think of things in terms of food, but if this is a meal, immigration is going to be your entree. We have like an employment side dish, if you will. I'm only going to take about 10 minutes to talk about Florida's current unemployment portal in light of COVID-19, how the state is handling it, some setbacks that we're having to deal with, but also I'm going to go in briefly into the process of navigating through the portal. And I also want to let you know, I mean, you most likely are going to run into problems. So I want to let especially that 32% of the people in the survey who answered they've experienced issues, we want to let you know we're here for you. And for the other 68%, maybe you haven't run into any issues now, but if you do, just know that we're here to help you navigate. If you don't get all of the information in this webinar, we will be having a one-pager to kind of for you to reference. So, everybody knows in the past few weeks, millions of Floridians have filed for unemployment. And because of the unprecedented surge of applications, the current servers with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity are being inundated. And for that reason, the websites are crashing. And the result is that it takes a lot longer. And sometimes it takes days for people to complete the application. Besides that, when you do file a claim for unemployment, those claims are remaining in a pending status for an extraordinary amount of time, sometimes weeks. So even if you do file a claim, it might take a long time for that to get approved. You probably read about it, about what the state's doing, about other state legislators that are working to perhaps have a special session to get together and figure out ideas of how to improve the system. But for the time being, we got to work with what we have, and we'll talk about how we're doing that. The governor has waived some restrictions related to the application process in light of COVID-19. For example, the work search requirement, the requirement that an applicant shows the state that they're looking for work, that is waived for the time being. However, you might see that on the portal when you're filing, it might still ask you for that info. There's some other changes. One is that the amount of benefits is increasing and the duration of benefits is also increasing. There's a number of upgrades that have already been done and there will be some more. And that's all done through executive orders. But the takeaway here is that it's very important for us to, I know it's hard to do this. It's a lot easier said than done, but to persevere and not be discouraged with these setbacks. And just know that if you are having issues, to document those issues and delays, report it to somebody. If not CAIR, then somebody in your local government to let them know that these issues are being encountered. That way we can work with that data to improve the system. I'm going to try to condense this into three main steps, but Florida has an unemployment system, and it's all actually called Florida's reemployment system. But in order to qualify, you must have, you had to have worked in the Florida unemployment, you have to have worked in the system for a certain amount of weeks. So I'm having just a bit of technical difficulty here, which has to happen sometimes. Okay. Like I said, in order to qualify for the program, you must have worked in Florida for anywhere from 12 to 18 months and have earned a minimum amount of wages. There's other eligibility requirements, but that is the main one. So, if you had a job, you're working, you got laid off through no fault of your own, and that's important, being fired for subordinates or any other cause might not entitle you to that, but for being fired for no fault of your own, you will be entitled to unemployment benefits. That is why we're seeing millions of Floridians apply. The step one, the first thing you should do is collect all of your information needed to complete the application, and I'll go through those with you. That's possibly the most important thing to keep in mind and to avoid the delays that people are seeing is to have all of your information ready when filing the application, because having to go back to answer those questions are only going to cause more delay. If the state has to ask you for more questions, that's going to increase your delay. The first thing you need is your social security number. You need your driver license or a state ID, employment information. For the past 18 months, you're going to need your employee ID, and that's found on your W-2 or your 1099. So your employer's name and your dates of employment, your first and your last day of work, and your earnings, as well as your reason for separation. If you have those ready, it'll make the process a lot easier. So if you're not, and by the way, Sister Anya, I'm not seeing the questions because I don't see the chat board up. So if you can, if there are any questions that someone needs answered right away, just interrupt me, or inshallah we'll take questions afterward. If you're not a US citizen, you're still entitled to those benefits. You need your alien registration number or other work authorization form. So after you've gathered that information, you want to submit the application. The easiest way to do it is going to be online. That website, it's included in the one pager. It's floridajobs.org/RA application. That's the best way to file. Not everybody has access to the computer, so there are paper applications available. That's from a website. So if you need a paper application, you can contact us and we can give you one, and that could be mailed in to the state. We don't advise for you to mail in your application if you have the ability to do it online. There are locations across the state available to assist with completing and submitting your application. CareerSourceFlorida.com is one of them. You can always call our CAIR office and we can facilitate, help you get that application processed as soon as possible. When you do mail in your application, a representative will be contacting you to confirm that the application has been submitted. You might be receiving information or requests for more information. You want to make sure to keep up with it as much as possible. There is a hotline to contact the Reemployment Assistance Program. It's also on the one pager. It's 800-204-2418. There's also a trouble filing number. And what I'm explaining to you is the reemployment process in a perfect world, which we are not in. So, when you do gather this information, you're filing this information, keep in mind that it could take a long time because Florida is in the process of upgrading their computer servers and providing more people to process these claims. So if you get kicked off, please don't be discouraged. Follow through and apply, and know that you are one of many millions who are currently filing for unemployment, unfortunately. Florida's benefit year is valid for 52 weeks, and the maximum number of weeks payable on a regular unemployment claim in Florida is 12 weeks. But in light of COVID-19, that's going to be extended for up to, I believe, about 26 weeks. Also, per week under the regular Florida unemployment system, a claimant is eligible for only $275 per week. That is now, claimants are eligible for an additional $600 per week under the CAIRS Act. What to expect after you file is you'll get a notice of monetary determination letter that's going to let you know how much you are entitled to. The longer you've worked in the system, the longer you've been employed, the more benefits you're going to be entitled to. So pay attention to different emails and text alerts from the DEO, that's the Department of Economic Opportunity, just in case they want additional information. You'll get an assessment letter that's mailed to you. Now, regularly, you would be required to show that you are actively looking for work, but that is waived. That requirement is not required in light of COVID-19. Also, before COVID-19, under the regular system, when you do apply for unemployment, you have to contact the office every 2 weeks to verify that you're unemployed. That is also being waived under the system. So, there are some fixes making it a little bit easier to file, but it's still incredibly difficult. When I speak about these steps, in no way am I saying that it's easy. It is difficult. We want you to know that we're here to help you throughout that process, and we want you to know that you shouldn't get discouraged in this time, because it's very easy to do that. You're reading all about it. I know close friends and family are all concerned about this. So let's lean on each other to get this done. You can, by the way, you can still file if you are getting Social Security payments or payments from a retirement account or rental property income or 401k distribution. That does not disqualify you from getting payments. If you're attending school while collecting unemployment benefits, your availability to accept work will also be reviewed. That's waived in any case. So, in summary, I want to let everybody know that if you have been laid off or fired, you want to file the claim as soon as possible, as soon as you find out about it and as soon as you get the opportunity to. If you are fortunate enough to have a job and unfortunately lose it in the future, you don't want to wait another day after getting laid off to log on to the system and file. Every day really counts because there's so many people filing at the same time. You want to establish your PIN. You want to watch out for mail notices. You want to have this one pager that we have up for reference to, so you have all your information. Constantly, you would check your bank account. There's several reasons to do that in light of COVID-19, not just to see about your possible stimulus payments or unemployment benefits, but more and more, and this is kind of a side point, I can't believe I'm saying it, but fraudsters are out in full effect. So right now, it's a good idea to constantly check your bank account to make sure that it's not being compromised and to make sure that you are getting your benefits. And if it's not there, you want to document the delay.
Thank you, Omar. I think that was a really great and comprehensive overview, alhamdulillah. Just to let everybody know, this one pager that we're sharing currently, It will be available on our social media as well. So just a general guidance document that we'll be posting on our social media after the call, and you can definitely check it out there. We did have a few questions come up. So one of the questions is if someone is a business owner, and I know you had the disclaimer that, you know, this is one session, we could have a future session for employers, but if someone's a business owner who has used 1099 staff in the past and still wants them to be working, is there a loan that they can capture to pay for that?
Yes, there are right now through, and I think we should have a separate webinar on the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. I'll be quick on that. That's not to this particular topic, but for the business owners, yes, there are loans being given out there to make sure that you can hold on to your employees, even if they're 1099. You might be hearing that the funds have run out. It's true, but I believe Congress is going to be earmarking more funds to do that. The advice there is to, if you haven't already filed an application with your bank and SBA, definitely do that as soon as possible. And for, if you have a specific question on that, contact our office. But to answer your question, yes, there are loans for that.
Great. And then, so there's two other questions on employment before we head over to immigration. So one is actually just a comment. One of the attendees has noted that they had a hard time filing online. They've been trying for the past 3 weeks, but no luck. They got on the phone and they were told that the system is being upgraded, so she would have to try again tomorrow. So I guess this goes to your point about, being as prompt as possible with your application and being tenacious with, keeping to trying until it's accepted. But any other comments that you have in that regard? I know that, it requires a lot of patience, right? Because things aren't happening as automatic as they maybe should be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's when I say persevere, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's just easy to do that. It's extremely hard and frustrating to do that. And I understand that. And so just beyond telling people to not be discouraged, I also want to let you know that call us if you're having issues and we want to help you for that. The other question was, I'm getting paid 1099 for the work I do. How can I get paid if I'm not getting paid by the business? You're a 1099, if you're not getting any business at all, and you were employed as a wage employee, you might still be eligible for unemployment benefits. Getting the money from your employer is a different story, and that is something that you should call our office and we can help you with.
Perfect. Thank you, Omar. And I think with that, okay, we got one last question on unemployment, and then we'll head over to immigration. So they say, Assalamu alaikum. They didn't give me or my husband an account number, so they're going to send it by check. So any personal issues, we just want to emphasize, any case-by-case issues, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll let you know whether that's something that we can help with or not. But, feel free to send our general or clarifying questions for us to answer.
I wanted to distinguish, because I see Nadia's question, just to, and it looked like it was a question geared toward the stimulus funds, and that question disappeared. Hold on, let me see. Or was that answered? And it looks like you're talking about the stimulus money, and you're probably getting, if they don't have your account number, yes, you will be getting it by check. It might be delayed a little bit. It says, can my husband take all the money? Because that's what he said. He said it's all for me, 2,400. So that, unfortunately, if they don't have your account number, and if they have your husband's, if you filed jointly, then yes, it will go to that one account number. If you filed separately, then no, you'll get that. You'll get that separate. You'll get that separate check.
Thank you, Omar. Again, we really appreciate it. We'll have that resource on our social media, and then stay tuned for future webinars on how employers can guide and navigate during this time, and other topics coming for you. And with that, Ahmed, I send it back over your way.
Thank you, Rania. And thank you very much, Omar. That was a lot of good information. And like I said, like he said, please contact our office with further questions. We're here for you. With that, I would like to now introduce to everyone Norma Henning, and she's going to begin the immigration portion of our webinar today. And she's going to talk about, again, extension of status for people who entered with a visa and other topics. So I'll let her now take over. Norma, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ahmed, and welcome everyone. And it is a new world for us. We do miss each other, and Omar, I miss you too. Just wanted to make sure that you understand that. And it's also difficult to not be able to meet with clients personally. So we really appreciate this outlet and you all signing in to give us an opportunity to answer some of the questions that we do get on a recurring basis. What Omar just described is a frustration for the entire state of Florida, and this time also is getting more political traction because employers are very upset that their employees, whom they intend to rehire when this is all over, are not getting their money. And they've basically discovered that this system is not efficiently set up. So vote, please, people. It matters who's in charge and whether or not they actually are interested in seeing that people do get paychecks or get benefits in rough times. And this is an unprecedented rough time. It has impacted, obviously, our practice. It's impacted travel, and particularly the categories of people that I see with the most questions are employees, obviously, who are now on immigration status, whose visas are tied or whose status is tied to their employment. Then we see visitors with visas, and these might be family members that are visiting you right now that are unable to leave. Visitors that came on what's called ESTA, which is a registration system that is not like a visa, but they are usually allowed to come in for 90 days and are unable to leave, or don't want to leave because maybe they're elderly or they have a health condition. They don't want to sit in a crowded plane right now. Then we see people with green cards who are stuck abroad and who are now concerned about spending too much time outside the United States and not being readmitted. And then obviously we're looking, all immigrants are concerned about the new public charge rules and whether or not that affects them in the future if they have to get tested, get treated for this terrible disease. I mean, there are the stories, people coming out of, with good results, coming out of the hospital with $40,000 in medical bills. And obviously that's going to be an issue for many people. So the first category of people who are employed with visas. And this is a little bit different and sometimes hard to explain, but these are employer-driven visas. So that means that the petitioner, the person who actually applies and who has the relationship with the immigration service regarding this particular visa is the employer. And that particularly affects H-1B employees because there are so many different rules that the employers have to follow. And if they lay off their employees, they have to, follow certain procedures, but there isn't much the employee can do. The employee is merely the beneficiary of this visa and has no influence on whether or not the employer says, look, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to terminate you. And I'm now writing a letter to immigration to basically tell them that I've terminated you, which they're obligated to do. They would then have to, if there's no other employer, would have to then pay basically your airfare and your family's airfare back to where you came from. During that time, there's also something that's important to note. As long as your I-94, which is that piece of paper that you now download from the internet that shows your departure date, as long as that is current, you are lawfully present. But if the employment situation has stopped, you are no longer in status. And in status is something you have to be if you find another job or if you want to change to another category. And that's why we basically suggest that people who are in that limbo status apply for a tourist status or visitor status as soon as possible. That is done by filing Form I-539, and that can actually be done directly from the website uscis.gov. And please, when you're looking at government websites, they all end with .gov. If it ends with .com, you're on some service provider's website that's going to charge you a fee and may or may not do what you're asking them to do. So that is where you would find that form I-539. There's a filing fee associated with it, and luckily it's for the entire family. So not every one of your family members has to file their own form. If you find a new job, if you like, H-1Bs are portable, and if you have another employer, you could ask them to immediately file a new petition for you, and you can begin working for that new employer immediately. Now, of course, right now where all employers are having problems, I don't know how realistic that is, but that is an option. Let's see. So you would basically buy some time by switching you and your family over to visitor status, and then from that visitor status, you're in status, and then once you get a new job offer, you can change or get your new employer to apply for a new H-1B. So then you might have visitors in your household, people that have come from another country to visit you that have B visas, and they might be elderly or might not want to leave or might not be able to get a flight back. They would also be able to extend their status by filing that same form, I-539. Now, one of the things that those forms are, they cover different categories, so they tend to be very complicated. Please do feel free to call us with questions and about those forms. So they can basically, these visitors can extend their stay for any lawful reason. And I've done this now several times for elderly people who are like, saying, I'm concerned, I don't want to sit on an airplane. I don't want to go through a travel situation because I might have asthma. We actually had, which was a very good story. We had some people stuck here that were then able to go and fly out on a charter jet, which was nice, but that was actually sent from a European country to come and pick people up. But then you have people on ESTA, people who have come here as visitors who do not have a visa, who are from certain countries where visa-free travel is allowed. ESTA has limitations that you cannot extend your status if you're on ESTA. However, if you have some kind of an emergency, and this certainly qualifies as an emergency, you can get what's called satisfactory departure. Now, normally, let's say, for example, somebody comes in this status, breaks a leg, and then says, look, I can't go, I have to go to do physical therapy. They can, visit the immigration office, the USCIS office, wherever they are, and get this satisfactory departure, giving them extra time to leave without violating the immigration rules. That's right now not an option. So the Customs and Border Protection is picking up the slack here. And it seems like the rules for every port of entry are different. So if somebody is here and says, look, or maybe they have symptoms, maybe they themselves are experiencing COVID symptoms, and they say, well, I don't want to expose others. You would then basically contact us, we'll try to find out which port of entry is responsible for you, and to see that we can get a satisfactory departure. The next category we see people with questions are people with green cards that are stuck abroad, or maybe in a comfortable situation, visiting relatives, and they don't want to leave right now, and they're worried about exceeding 6 months or 1 year of absence from the United States, and then having trouble using their green cards to re-enter. The 6-month rule is interesting because it basically changes the questions that immigration, or customs rather, is allowed to ask you at entry. They are basically no longer saying, oh, hey, welcome back to the United States, or welcome home. They're basically saying, so what was the purpose of your trip, and so on. So as long as you have not changed your intention of being a lawful permanent resident of the United States, they have to admit you. So you could obviously state the reason, and most of the reasonable officers will understand why you chose not to travel, or why your relative chose not to travel. And as long as you have continued ties to the United States, and your intention of having your permanent residence in the United States has not changed, you know, you can basically, if somebody challenges that, say, no, I did not intend, I did not change my intention. My home is in the United States. I was precluded from coming home when I wanted to. You might carry evidence with you. You might have evidence of your close family ties in the United States, and evidence that that you have a home available to you, and then plead. If the officers really do not believe that, they might give you a notice to appear, and then you get to tell a judge the story, but they have to let you in. So that is the good news. Public charge rules. The Immigration Service came out, first of all, when these new rules came out, that was exactly one of the issues that a lot of people had with it. It's like, it was to say, if we have some kind of a public health crisis, immigrants are going to be reluctant to seek medical attention if they can't afford it, because they don't want to be, you know, to run afoul of these rules and then later on have issues when they apply for permanent residence, that the Immigration Service is going to say, oh, no, you availed yourself of benefits in this health situation, and therefore we're now making it impossible for you to ever get the green card. So when COVID-19 became a more widely known issue, the Immigration Service came out and said very clearly, any testing, treatment, or even preventative treatment for a communicable disease is not going to be considered a public benefit that you avail yourself of for purposes of this means tested benefits analysis to see whether an intending immigrant or a prospective immigrant is going to be a public charge. So please do not hesitate to seek medical attention, even if you can't afford it, because I mean, you might, you know, get worse yourself, infect someone. So very clearly, they stated that if it's medical attention you're seeking for this particular issue, this will not be held against you later. So I know Bob is going to have some more immigration-related question or information, and obviously we're happy to take individual questions. But that's all for me at this point.
Norma, this is Ahmed again. We do have a couple of sort of fast questions, I think, that you might be able to answer from our guests. The one is, he's saying that what about foreign students who are stuck with the visa expiring? How are they affected?
Well, is the status expiring? Are they finished studying, or? I mean,
well, it doesn't give that. I think you might have to answer broader because the question is not specific. But I saw that it was related to students, which we hadn't sort of discussed yet. So I thought that would be good to bring up to you. That
is something I would rather discuss in a more personal level. But yeah, of course, students are going to be affected too. Classes are suspended, but that I don't know what the student officers at the individual universities are giving. I mean, students, because are you able to study online? You know, those are the kinds of questions. There are too many questions associated with that question right now.
Well, then it might be a good idea for them to. Then it might be a good idea for them to call into our office to get a more detailed answer.
Right.
And just like one more. I was asked by the question: what is the status of the H-1 cap? Is there anything for the H-1B visas and all of that that we can answer at this time, or is there an answer?
The cap, I haven't heard any changes to the cap. I mean, one of the things that is important, you know, we're a nonprofit civil rights legal type service. We don't actually do H-1B petitions. So the information I have is more from the beneficiary's perspective. I don't know about the cap. Frankly, I would, you know, send me an email, I'll find out, but that's not something that we keep apprised of, because that's not the kind of work we normally do.
Okay, Norma, thank you. I'm sure we're going to get back to probably some more of these questions that Bob can answer. But right now, I'd like to, again, introduce Bob Sichta. He's also one of our very experienced immigration attorneys. And he's going to talk about the effect of preparing for a post-COVID-19 world, immigration world. And I'll also ask him to introduce himself, and then after a little while for Rania to put up that slide which we've prepared for this part. So Bob, you're on.
Just a second, Bob. We can't hear you. Give me 1 second, and I should be able to fix that.
I'm going to mute myself too.
In the meantime, actually, until I just fix Bob's audio real quick, Ahmed, can we take another question for Norma?
Yes, we can. Let's go with, well, this one is very close to Norma's heart. Here's a question. Salam, this is a question on behalf of my cousin who holds German citizenship. He's on a business visa. Can he buy a business here, manage the business, and get paid for running the business?
Well, I'm actually from Germany. So yes, this is a question near and dear to my heart. And also I want to just say, in the change situation, thank you for being patient with us when we run into technical difficulties, especially people with hair this color. We're having trouble with all these technical things and learning a whole lot of things that I never thought we would. But depending on what visa status or what status this gentleman is on, there is an investor visa that is very popular with Germans. It's called the E2 investor visa. And if you're the investor making a substantial investment in an active business, yes, there is a possibility for him to change his status into that investor status. The visa, if he wanted to get the actual visa, he would have to leave the United States, go to Germany, to Frankfurt, and apply for the visa there. And I've got a few, in my other life, I have a few applications pending there right now. They're closed, of course. So if he wants to do that, he might want to get into the queue and see those visa applications there take a few weeks, and then he would re-enter. And by the way, this is an important thing too. If anyone falls out of status, that doesn't mean that they are unlawful, that they will not be able to get another status. So if someone falls out of status, I'm sorry, that doesn't mean they wouldn't be able to get another visa. Someone falls out of status and has a different opportunity with a different employer, they might be able to apply for that status, leave the United States, but then the penalty for falling out of status actually is that they would have to go back to their home country and get a new visa stamped into their passport, with which they would then re-enter the United States. But the answer is yes, and we can give your cousin a few pointers. We don't actually do investor visas because our services are more geared toward people who are have financial issues and are not able to pay expensive immigration lawyers. But we'll be able to help them and maybe point them in the right direction.
Thank you, Norma. Is Robert ready to go? It doesn't look.
We need just another minute, Ahmed. I see a few more questions coming in from the audience.
I'll go ahead and ask. Let's go to. Okay, this one is, I think.
Sorry, Ahmed, just because I'm having trouble with connecting with Bob. So Bob, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. We lost the audio connect that you had. So just go ahead and rejoin with the link that I had emailed you, and I will re-email it to you right now, and then we should be good to go. But continue, Ahmed, with the Q&A. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Norma, the question is, I am in asylum case since 2018. He has still no appointments until today, and they're asking if there's a limit on the delay and how to speed it up, if you know that.
Oh, I don't know that. That's actually what Bob does.
Right, that's what I was thinking. I'm sorry.
The delays, I mean, people who have cases pending You know, obviously you want to make sure that your employment authorization is always up to date and all this stuff, but those things might be delayed more now, or they might go quicker. I mean, one thing about this administration has been that they have tried to resolve cases quickly, often or against the applicants. So I don't know whether or not it's going to affect processing times right now. We're in a new world, and I think that was what Bob was going to talk about, his experience with the asylum cases, with court closings and delays that have to do with the COVID-19, you know, new procedures. So I think, you know, you're probably fine. I mean, if there's a specific issue you have, but the asylum cases are not going to be affected, you know, there's nothing that affects the material part of your case with respect because of the time delays. So.
Thank you, Norma. We'll go to one that might be one that you can answer. We're saying I guess this person is a J1 visa holder, which requires them to leave the country for 2 years, and is asking if there's some sort of waiver now for doctors.
I do not know, but that's something that we can find out. That's, again, we don't, you know, that's not particularly our area at this point, but that's something, if you could send us an email on that, I can find out. You mean the waiver of the home residency requirement, I'm assuming, or I'm assuming that's what he means. Because
right.
It would make sense, but it would make total sense because we need you here. We really, really need you here. We need you to stay here. But, you know, what I've seen, particularly with this administration, which is, again, why voting is so important for all of you who are citizens or are becoming citizens or no citizens, please vote. Because this particular administration is you know, coming up with things to just make immigration harder, and it's going to make things harder for you know, for everyone, particularly in a public health crisis when we need immigrants to help us survive these challenges. And one thing that we've noted in previous crises, for example, Hurricane Katrina, suddenly.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. But suddenly, let me just finish the sentence. That suddenly, when there is a need, it is often resulted in easing immigration rules regarding waivers or regarding being able to be employed, or even for undocumented aliens to be employed. You know, because we need them. So please don't lose heart, but send us your contact information, and I'll try to find out.
So we can't win all the battles all the time, but you know, we don't get to see Robert's very handsome face, which we apologize to the audience about, but we get to hear his powerful voice. So Bob, we're going to turn over the mic to you, and I'm going to go ahead and get the quick tips sheet that you prepared on the screen as well. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. Believe me, you're missing a real treat by not being able to see me. By the same token, there are several movies that are paying me royalties not to show my image. I'm going to cover 2 areas for you, one of which is on your screen perhaps already, but the other of which I want to provide as an overview for what we do with CAIR, with immigration. Keeping in mind, our legal immigration services are free. The filing fees you pay to the government are not. You have to pay those, but we provide free legal immigration services. Just in the past month alone, from a personal perspective, and I'm not the only one doing this at CAIR, this isn't all about me. I fielded more than 50 calls with people in need, calling 7 days a week from new, existing, and former clients, together with other callers who are aware of the immigration legal services available at our office. We covered subjects including detention, ICE, visa overstays, visa renewals, related issues including green cards expiring while they were out of the United States, students unsure whether they would be able to return to classes, where the people who were on work visas who had been laid off could now be required to leave the United States, whether accepting government stimulus checks would result in becoming classified as a public charge and therefore be a significant impediment to getting a green card, interview cancellations, U.S. citizenship oath cancellations, government agencies losing and helping them obtain replacements or substitutes for people's necessary personal documents, and assisting students whose employment is ordinarily limited to on-campus jobs with minimal hours, in exercising the extraordinary right to get a work card while school is out of session and while they are without income. And during that time, while working remote, and we were all working remote, in addition to our other ordinary filings and clients, we filed petitions for alien relatives, green card applications, and citizenship applications, work card applications, and renewals. And we filed applications for asylum. We filed 3 applications for asylum and have 3 more pending in 1 month's time. That's a lot of work. One asylum application on its own takes a tremendous amount of time and work. It ordinarily costs a great deal of money. That's an overview of what we currently do, what we have been doing this last month. Now, I'd like to talk with you about the 3 worlds of immigration, including the one you're about to step into. We've covered this in some broader ways during this meeting today, and this will be broad as well, but some points should hit home. Please pay attention. If you are not a U.S. citizen, this is going to pertain to and affect you directly. We have the pre-2016 world of immigration. It was a pretty ordinary world of immigration. There wasn't a lot of hostility. There wasn't a lot of craziness. Things got processed. Things got delayed. Stuff happened, but everybody was pretty reasonable about every part of it. We had the post-2016 world of immigration. This is a world where things suddenly started creeping in and getting in the way of people in different ways. All these public charge rules you're hearing about happened during this time, since 2016. All kinds of forms were added. All kinds of things were added to forms. All kinds of things started getting delayed in ways that had never been delayed before. All kinds of things started getting returned by the USCIS for reasons that didn't make any sense, for reasons where there had never been a return on that issue in the past, or they were just summarily denied and we had to refile, costing people filing fees, among other things, and those filing fees were expensive. And now we're about to go into the post-COVID-19 world. We're going to deal with its rolling future effects because it's coming back. Anyone who thinks this is the first wave of this pandemic needs to be on guard and carefully think about that. Remember, it's coming back in waves, and every time it does, things are going to change more. The environment is going to become hostile in ways you couldn't anticipate, that you didn't expect, that are going to surprise you. In the post-COVID-19 immigration world, the burden will be on you. So you're going to need some rules. Most of them are obvious. Even so, we're going to want to maintain a list, and you're going to want to maintain a list of rules. Think about this as though you were thinking about your Miranda rights. You see this in the movies all the time, and it's one of the few accurate things they do, where they say, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you. They say those things. You need to think as though you're in a Miranda rights world with respect to the rules of immigration that you are now facing. Here are some of those rules. These are primary rules for navigating the post-COVID-19 future. Expect government people to forget about what has been going on. Expect them to forget entirely that our government and everything was shut down for weeks and even months at a time in some places. Be prepared because of that to over-document everything. Save every single scrap of paper, whether personal, a canceled airline ticket, an attempt to make a reservation, a bank statement, a receipt, emails, text, social media postings, or anything you get in the way of an email confirmation, a letter, anything you get from any government agency. Save everything. Save every single piece of paper and try to organize them if you can. Documents you get from the government are going to contain all kinds of things you don't understand that we do as lawyers. There are going to be all kinds of things on those forms that we specifically look for, and they're not going to be the obvious things that pop up that you see, like a file number or a date or something like that. There'll be all kinds of subtle things we'll need to look at when you save your paperwork and bring it to us. There's another reason, by the way, for saving this paperwork, and it goes back to one of the questions that was raised earlier. That question related to people being able to, at risk of losing their green card by being out of the country for a period of time. If you are out of the country for more than 6 months and you have a green card and you come back, yes, they'll let you in, but they could take your green card away at the border and you might have to go, as Norma said, to immigration court to get it back. You want to avoid that. That's a big hassle and it's expensive. One way you can possibly avoid it, because we can't guarantee these things anymore, we used to be able to, one of the ways that you can protect yourself when this happens is to prove that you have maintained ties here in the United States. What are ties here in the United States? An apartment lease, a deed to a house, a title to a car, a utility bill, a telephone number that is a US phone number, your wife or your husband or your children still back here. Those are ties to the United States that no one can ignore. You need to be prepared to prove those with pictures, with documents. I have a client coming back in now. We have a client coming back in now after being out more than 6 months because of COVID-19, who is going to be bringing photos. They're going to be bringing a copy of their apartment lease that one of their relatives here in the US emailed to them. Please remember that. These are things that are going to be important. Expect court backlogs and agency delays. We already are in a period of delay with respect to filings with the USCIS, the people who process your green card applications, the people who process your citizenship applications, the people who process your visa applications, your extension issues, all these things. They are already delaying and taking long times to process different things. Expect those backlogs to get longer. And again, expect everybody in a few months to forget that we were all stopped by this virus. They're going to pretend that didn't happen and wonder what your problem is, or why it was you weren't somewhere or were somewhere. You need to blanket this with proof that you were sheltering in place because the government where you are located, your state government, whatever, mandated that there were curfews, that there were things like this. Save newspaper clippings, save emails, save anything you can to have to provide as hard copy when the time comes. You're going to need it. Expect more detentions. You have heard about people being stopped at the southwest border, entire families, and them all being separated, and children being put in different places. Expect that, more of that. We're already having that here in Florida with people flying in. People are flying in and they're going straight to detention because detention is the Customs Border Protection people's weapon of choice. Please understand that. They love to use detention now because it's a way of putting enormous pressure on you or on your family. They will try to get you to succumb to that pressure and surrender to whatever it is they want, whether it's voluntarily leaving the country, whatever it is. Expect them to use their growing current weapon of choice, detentions. Expect ICE to be more aggressive, not less. Omar had a case that I shared with him a little bit that actually he brought me into a little bit a couple of weeks ago, where we thought that everybody was laying low, that everybody was backing off, that ICE was not going to be active in situations right now unless there were really serious circumstances. And yet we had a person who came in on a green card, and because on their phone, they found some information that they decided internally was disturbing. Their question was, since there were social media postings between the green card holder and their United States citizen wife, and there were some differences in addresses, that they weren't really married, when in fact they owned a house and they rented a house out to someone else, so they were sharing information about the two different addresses, their own home and their rental home. But that's not how Customs Border Protection saw it. So they showed up at the person's door shortly after that and knocked on the door and demanded to see them. Omar got them to go away, but this was not easy. And that's a circumstance that is taking something to extremes that we would never have even in ordinary times, and we had it in COVID-19. ICE is not going to be your friend. Expect them to be more aggressive. Expect more denials of applications, particularly involving public charge rules. Right now, if you're green carded, you're exempt from public charge rules. They're not supposed to apply to you, but they're going to find ways to make you worry, to intimidate you. You need to be prepared. And how are you going to do that? You're going to maintain extraordinary documentation of everything you do, the work you do, when you take something, when you accept something, who it's for, who the members of your family are. You're going to maintain that and have that available when the time comes, because you're going to need to provide a mountain of paperwork to protect yourself. We're here to help you do that, of course, but you're going to need to do that. Expect financial considerations to become paramount. People are going to define you by the money you have in the bank, by your credit. They're going to define you that way, not by what else you bring to the table. You can come in with all kinds of ideas, but if you aren't showing a considerable amount of financial largesse, expect to have a harder time getting what you're after. Expect difficulties in getting approvals for the following. You see this in the handout. For EADs, those are work cards, employment authorization documents. We call them EADs or work cards. In getting green card approvals and getting visas, and when I say visas, I mean the standard ones everybody uses, not just the B1, B2 for visitors, whether they're personal or business, but F1s, religious visas, which have always been hard to get, J1s for professionals, H1B work visas, asylum. Do not expect reasonable treatment. Expect unreasonable, almost paranoid treatment. Remember, in 95% of the circumstances, you will probably be treated in a pretty reasonable way. But 5% is a high percentage when you come in and out of the country a lot, when you interact with the government a lot in different ways. If you run into one of the 5%ers who has decided it's their turn to give some immigrant a hard time, and that's how they see it, expect your life to get upside down. That's why the last note on my presentation is don't go without a lawyer. Call us. We're here for you. We're here to try to help you. Give us a call. So that's the basis, the primary foundation of my presentation. We're all happy to respond to different questions of different types. I noticed somebody had posted a question earlier about a family member who was out of the country for more than 12 months and they had gotten a green card. That's something we need to talk about in our office. That's one of those complicated circumstances. For a couple of you, I've already responded in the chat line, on the Q&A line, and given my phone number and asked you to call me on certain dates at certain times. We're all available to do that. We are all working remote, so you'll need our personal numbers in order to get in touch with us to do those things. I'm going to give mine right now for anybody who thinks they've got a question. Do me one favor when you call. Please respect the fact that we are at home working 10 to 12 hours a day, and we have needs as well and families. And the fact that we're not committing means apparently that we're able to add that to our workday. So we need some time too, some time away. But if you will please call during reasonable hours during the week, not weekends, because that's when I get in the pool and hold my breath as long as I can. To some of my neighbors, it's not long enough. But anyway, my phone number, please write it down, is 941-400-5296. That's for Bob Sichta, immigration lawyer at CAIR, 941-400-5296. Now, not all of us want you to call us on their cell. So I'm going to let other folks give you their numbers in their own particular way. If you have an immigration law question, please call me. We'll try and do what we can. If you have other kinds of questions, like how do you pay your taxes or something, I'll be happy to refer you to, I don't know, Ahmed.
Well, sorry to interrupt you then, Bob. There is a couple of questions out here I think that you can answer before we start wrapping up the webinar. I've got a question from Ahmed also. He says, I have an asylum case since 2018, no appointment until today. Is there a limit for that? And is there any way of speeding it up?
Some questions immediately come up in my head when I hear that. So what I'm hearing is they have filed for asylum in 2018. It sounds like they've just been contacted about getting an interview. Does that make sense? Is that what the question is?
Well, it's literally, it says no appointment till today. Is there a limit for that? And
okay. In other words, they haven't been called yet, probably. No, there isn't. They should celebrate this, use their work card, and get their footing established in this country. Use this time in other constructive ways to get yourself in this country stronger. We have people who wait 4 and 5 years and longer just to get an asylum interview after we've applied for them. It can take a long time, a long time. You are not the exception. Along with that, if they deny you, and they really love to deny you, then you will end up in immigration court, and that is a 2 or 3 year process as well. None of it moves fast. Nothing moves fast in immigration. It simply doesn't. Now, about immigration cases themselves, you will think you have the best case in the world, and you will be totally flummoxed as to why the government doesn't agree when you present it. Probably because you went without a lawyer. You need to go to your asylum interviews with lawyers. Don't go to them alone. The mere presence of a lawyer makes them pay better attention. The rules are different in an asylum interview. When you go to an asylum interview, your lawyer is not even allowed to sit next to you. There's an argument about that, by the way, but we don't push that. They try to make the lawyer sit behind you. I don't mind that. I'm happy to make the interviewer happy and not fight them over that issue, simply because I'm more than happy to jump in when I hear something inappropriate anyway. And I want that client to know that we've got their back, that we're ready to jump in, answer questions, help out. But you don't want to go to an asylum interview without a lawyer. It will not be like any interview you've been to. It will be something where every question will be repeated many times over, where they will extend the question, where they will ask you things that seem completely innocuous, that will make no sense to you. But
sorry, Bob, just one, I'm sorry to interrupt. Okay. There's just one last question.
I could go on all day, you're right.
On one last question on asylum before we wrap it up, and I think it's a good one for you. It's the question is, my status is pending for an asylum and my work authorization is about to end. How can I renew if the USCIS is closed? I would think is the best is to call into our office. What do you think?
Yes, call us because we'll help you. Well, if it's what you say it is, if you're accurate with your information you're giving us, you can get it renewed. You should be able to get it renewed 2 years at a time, particularly if you've not been called for an interview. But we'll help. Great.
On that note, I would like to say to everyone who has joined us, thank you very much. We're learning how to do this whole process along with you, our listeners. We hope that this was informative to you. What we also hope that you do is, if you have very specific questions, we can help you if you call us. That's what we're here for. You'll see in the chat room, in the chat box, our contact information. Please contact us. We're here to help. And also, again, you see the level of expertise of our attorneys. You know that when you're taken on by CAIR, you're getting the best attorneys out there, but we need your help. So if you can donate, please do. And also, I would like to say that this employment rights and immigration, these are only the tip of the iceberg for the questions that we received today. We are planning on hosting more of these webinars in the future, especially on employment, as Brother Omar was speaking to earlier, as well as more on immigration, because these are huge, huge areas in which we know that we have questions about. So my recommendation is, for all of you who have questions outside of this webinar, please call us, please write to us, please email us. Our contact information is there. And on that point, I'd like to quickly turn it over to Rania again for her closing remarks.
Thank you, Ahmed. I don't have much in way of closing remarks. This was really educational for me as well. Just to reiterate, if we weren't able to get to your question, you know, we do apologize. We were trying. There were so many coming in, but our emails are listed on our CAIR-Florida website. You can reach out to us via social media on our websites and call us. As we have mentioned, we would gladly get to your questions. And I just want to remind everyone to please tune in Wednesdays at noon Eastern time and Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And also, along with your questions, you know, send us in the topics that you want to see, the topics that you're struggling with and that you would appreciate having more webinars and programs about. Other than that, I want to thank our brilliant staff, Ahmed for moderating, an excellent job, and our attorneys. We're grateful to hear from you all, and we'll see you all next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Good night.